Hi, thank you for being here. I know it's the festive season soon, so I wanted to dive into detail on how you can avoid the festive season weight gain because let's face it, you can enjoy life and celebrate and not put on kilos and kilos and kilos and kilos. Though this largely comes down to your mindset and headspace and being really deliberate with your indulgences. So, this is one of the most critical pieces of advice that I give to my clients, and that is to be, again, deliberate with your indulgences. So, is it going to be alcohol? Is it going to be dessert? Is it going to be a second serving of turkey and cranberry sauce and everything else? Is it going to be the bread roll on the side? If you're indulging in everything, chances are you're not really indulging at all because you're then probably just eating whatever is in front of you and acting out of a place of scarcity. And when you're operating from a place of scarcity, you're not really able to enjoy what you have because you're not focused on how much you have. You're not focused on the abundance that's in front of you. You're eating out of a fear of missing out. You're eating just for the emotional response. You're eating just because you can. And let's face it, any day of the year, you can go and indulge in whatever you would like to. So, with that in mind, my top tip is to plan ahead, look at all of the Christmas parties, all of the New Year parties, all of the festive events that are coming up on your social calendar and social schedule. Look at where you want to live a little, let your hair down, let your hair out, shall we say, and be a little less strict, a little more fluid and flexible. Remove yourself from, the macros and micros and calorie counts and, typical restrictions or parameters that you operate from. And really choose where you want to, again, indulge. Now, you have to be honest with yourself and understand that whenever you sway from the plan or the usual way of eating, the usual way of drinking, the usual way of exercising, of course, your results are going to speak to that. And so you can't choose to indulge at every event and also expect to not gain weight. That's just not realistic. So you have to really look ahead and think, okay, where am I going to fill up on protein, fill up on fiber, and eat food that might be slightly different to usual, but I'm still going to make the same priorities the same priorities. And where am I going to, again, maybe have alcohol where you wouldn't usually, maybe have one glass more than usual, perhaps have dessert when you wouldn't typically, have an extra course when you wouldn't. And my suggestion is to tick one of those boxes. It's to have one indulgence rather than the whole effort, let's just indulge in everything. Again, if you're indulging in everything, you're probably not really enjoying what you think you're enjoying. You're probably confusing enjoyment with a scarcity mindset and fear of missing out. So, that's super important. And for those of you who have a busy social calendar and social schedule, looking ahead and looking at where you may want to indulge a little bit more is going to make it all the easier for you to stay on plan and stay on track outside of those indulgences. What can be really important at this time of year is when we have travel to look at where you can fit movement into your busy days. So when it comes to exercising on holidays, we might focus on getting your step count up. So if typically you would hit 7,000 to 8,000 steps, maybe getting the usual gym workout is not going to be as easy or straightforward for you, in which case we might shift the goal to increasing your step count and getting in a hotel workout for the first 45 minutes of the day before you even eat, before you even see the buffet breakfast temptation, before the social events. When you get that done and you move that needle, then it sets the tone for the rest of the day, and it's so much easier to be productive, to live in the same line of accordance to your health and fitness goals. That is a really helpful tip to also keep hunger levels nice and regulated because you are controlling your blood sugar from the get-go. So a lot of people will starve themselves and deprive themselves after they have indulged, because people like to live in extremes and people only know how to live in extremes. The danger there is it's very hard to be consistent when you're fluctuating between an all or nothing approach. My suggestion is look at your adherence level. How much of the time are you spent following your quote unquote meal plan? How often are you consistently going to the gym 3, 4, 5, even 6 or 7 times a week? And ascertain what your adherence to each category is. So my suggestion with my clients is always have one goal related to fitness, one goal related to mindset, and one goal related to nutrition, and get really, really consistent at applying yourself in working towards those goals. Now, once you start to see changes in those areas, then you can start to set some new goals or look to move the needle again with regards to where you're at. But until you're doing something 50% of the time, 90% of the time, you are not actually being consistent. You might be working towards consistency, but you're not actually being consistent. So what does that look like? If we look at a year, and let's say 90% of the year is 325 or so days, then you should be exercising more than half the week for 325 days of the year. So consistency is doing something more than 50% of the time, 90% of the time. So zooming in and zooming out, we need to look at goals through 3 different lenses: the micro, the meso, and the macro. So micro being small, zoomed in, day to day, week to week; meso being month to month or quarterly; and then macro typically being yearly, on a yearly cycle. So it's very easy, again, with the festive season to kind of just let your hair loose and go, F it, I'm going to indulge in everything, or one drink leads to 3, leads to 5, or, a second helping of, I like turkey, so I'm going to say turkey, leads to a third serving of turkey, leads to a slice of apple pie, leads to another drink of alcohol, leads to Christmas pudding, custard, minced tarts. Do we actually eat those because we like them, by the way? Because I don't think we do. And why mince? I think I read a story about that once, and I'm trying to remember how it came to be called a mince pie, because there is no mince in there. But anyway, my point being, if you're not even consistent right now, you're definitely not going to be consistent after December and January. So now is a good time to look at what you want to be consistent in and what consistency looks like for you now. And again, getting really good at adhering and applying that definition. Okay, so again, for some people, that's going to be training 3 times a week. And even when you travel, we don't want things to just go out the window because there's a festivity, or because there's people in town, or because you're out of town. That contributes, again, to that all or nothing approach. And we can do so much more than we realize when we focus on finding a way to do what we can. So that requires you to detach from perfection, because hotel workouts aren't going to be perfect. They're just not. And that's okay. But doing some hotel workouts, even whilst you're traveling, not only is it possible, but it's going to help you to keep the muscle that you've worked so hard to build. And when you do return to the gym, when you do return to, face-to-face training, it's just going to be so much easier to continue to pick up where you left off. We've all gone to the gym, and we all have that one session that we remember where we felt absolutely tortured. And it's because we had a bit too much of a break in between training. We may have gone away for 2 weeks, and all we did was walk for those 2 weeks, and we returned to the gym. And my God, we are like, never again am I taking 2 weeks off training. And you should know that the benefits and adaptations and changes that you get from training, we start to lose those within 2 weeks of stopping. So if you let 2 weeks elapse without exercising, without going to the gym, without lifting, you are starting to lose some of those adaptations and, again, changes and benefits and byproducts of all that hard work. And so it's not to provide you with another outlet to judge yourself and criticize yourself and beat yourself up. No, it's just to say you have to work really damn hard to build muscle and even harder to keep it. And we take for granted the fact that it's just always going to be there. It's not, okay? Like, wild fact alert, some brutal honesty, some hard truths. It's just not. So the body doesn't owe it to you to keep muscle. It's very metabolically demanding. You do have to fuel it with protein. You do have to work hard to build it and keep it, which means you have to keep lifting. And I really encourage you, for those of you who are traveling, to make it to the hotel gym, to make it to the condo gym, to get up 45 minutes earlier, go and do what you can. If it's 4 exercises, great. If it's 6 exercises, even better. It doesn't have to be super strenuous, and it doesn't have to look like however your normal training looks like. When I travel, my training, I try and keep it as close to my normal routine as possible, but it's not identical. It's a different environment. I may not have my lifting shoes. I may not have my lifting belt. I may not have the best pre-workout nutrition. I might eat differently before training. I might not be as hydrated because I might be dehydrated from my flight. That's not the point. The point is I go out of my way to keep the muscle that I have. And really, that should be the focus when you're traveling. Not really building strength unless you travel all the time, in which case you do need to find a way to circumvent that. Though there should be some sort of effort to sustain the muscle that you have. And again, the body isn't going to keep the muscle that you have unless you give it a reason to. Meaning you have to get to the gym. You just have to. You have to lift something. There's no two ways about that. So that's worth knowing. Now, when it comes to alcohol, yes, empty calories. Most of you know that. It's 7 calories per gram. Fat is 9, carbs are 4, protein is 4. What most of you don't realize is the impact it has on metabolism. So your body labels alcohol as poison. And even if you eat really great food, let's say you have some turkey or you have some ham and you have some salad or roast vegetables, that's all very nutritious food, or at least it can be. The challenge is your body doesn't care and isn't going to do a whole lot with all those vitamins and minerals and protein and fiber and what have you when a poison is present. So when you ingest alcohol, your body sees that there's poison going through your bloodstream. Its number one priority is to get rid of that, because anything that endangers or threatens your survival is, not good. And the body is going to be very, very, very focused on eliminating and removing that substance before it can then prioritize anything else. So this is a challenge because your body isn't going to do as much with protein. It's not going to do as much with fiber. It's not going to do as much with vitamins and minerals. And I mean, if you're drinking even more than usual, it's going to be hard for your body to keep the muscle if you're not training normally. It's going to be a lot more challenging to actually see changes in body composition. So yes, it's not just the calories themselves. It's also the interference it has with how you metabolize everything else. And again, that changes in the presence of alcohol because alcohol is a poison to the body. Of course, the body doesn't like poison because, poison is poison. So pick your poison. If your indulgence is going to be alcohol, then cool, let it be alcohol. But let's maybe consider what that looks like in terms of the frequency, in terms of how much, in terms of the actual source of alcohol itself, and whether we want dessert or alcohol, or whether we want a second portion of food or dessert or alcohol. To me, the main thing is that you genuinely enjoy the day and that you are present and enjoying the day. And that's really hard if you're criticizing yourself and judging yourself and trying to punish yourself for enjoying yourself. At the end of the day, you're allowed to like food that tastes good. You should enjoy tasty food. You should enjoy food that tastes good in the company of people that you love. There's nothing wrong with that. Though if you feel as though you're just eating everything in plain sight because you can, I would argue you're not really enjoying yourself. You're not being present enough to actually enjoy yourself. That is worth mentioning. So just to recap, be deliberate with your indulgences and choose wisely. How off plan you go will reflect in the mirror. It will reflect in how your clothes fit. It will reflect in how You see the scales. The next time you step on the scales, it will reflect in how you feel on January 1st or January 2nd. And you get to influence that. The more you can create that equilibrium where you feel you have a balance of enjoying the foods that you enjoy and maybe drinking the drinks you like, whilst also respecting the fact that you are a human who is responsible for your own health and you are responsible for what you put into you. That's a nice place and space to be. But a lot of people neglect themselves, honestly, when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to fitness. They neglect themselves over Christmas. And they also do this in the summer holidays when they go back and they indulge a little bit more than usual. And I say that because I get a lot of inquiries in August and I get a lot of people coming to me saying, I ate too much over the the summer holidays. I drank too much over the summer holidays. Now I'm 5 kilos heavier. Can you help me? And it's like, well, yeah, but I don't just want to help you for 5 months and have you do it all over again. And that's what we're about to encounter. Just speaking from my observations, having been in this industry for 15 years. So there's that. So avoiding the all or nothing approach. You can enjoy foods you like. You can also respect your own boundaries, and people may want to comment on what you eat and how you, and like people comment on the fact that I don't drink and that I don't eat dessert, and let them. People are allowed to judge. Honestly, like how I feel towards me is separate to that. So let them say what they want to say. Fill up on fiber first and protein. You want to feel full, and those two ingredients are going to help with that. Alcohol, just be mindful that it interferes with how you metabolize. And for me, I delay my indulgences. So I hold off just so that I can have the space to think about whether I really want to eat something or whether I'm just doing it because it's there. So I always delay my indulgence as long as I can, because I want to make sure that when I do enjoy the food that I'm enjoying, that I genuinely am enjoying it and I'm not just, again, popping it in my mouth because it's there and I can, or acting out of scarcity, operating from a scarcity mindset. That to me is always really important, that I'm not operating from scarcity. I can get myself a Christmas pudding any day of the year, really. I mean, if I buy it in December and I keep it in my fridge, I could have it in May if I wanted to. Do you know? So if you're just eating it because you're not really enjoying it, and then you end up feeling regret and, oh my God, why did I do that? Oh my God. And well, if I ate one, I might as well have two, or I might as well have some Christmas pudding as well, or I might as well have some gingerbread as well. And then before you know it, you're suddenly standing on the scales. It's January 1st and you're like, I said I would not be this weight this year. And then you call me and you're like, how do I undo this? So I don't want that for you. I want you to feel good going into the festive season and going into the new year. And so these are my top tips in doing so. I thank you so much for being here. If you're just joining me now, please make sure you rewind, go back to the beginning and play, save for later if you're not able to watch it now. If you have any questions, do let me know. I always want to talk about what you want to hear about. So do be sure to leave me your questions or send me a direct message to ensure that I can make sure I address that for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to doing this again. Have an amazing and beautiful day.